Honestly, you are so boring. I wish I were single right now.
Wait, Matai.
What is this? How could you do this to me?
I boarded the cruise ship with my wife, Mia, hoping this trip could fix the growing tension between us. For months, she'd been distant, glued to her phone, and easily annoyed by anything I did or said. I kept telling myself that maybe, just maybe, this vacation would bring us closer again like we used to be. The moment we stepped onto the deck, her phone was out. She started taking selfies, carefully angling the camera to make sure I wasn't in any of them. When I reached for her hand, she pulled away. "Don't, you'll mess up the photos," she said, without even looking at me. I tried to laugh it off, but it stung more than I wanted to admit. As the massive ship began to pull away from the dock, a wave of excitement should have hit us. Instead, Mia's eyes darted across the deck to a group of young, boisterous passengers she'd noticed earlier. She quickly moved toward them, phone still in hand. I heard her whisper to a friend she'd just made, "This cruise would be so much more fun if I were single." I stood a few feet away, pretending I hadn't heard, but her words were like a physical slap. The sound of the ship's horn blaring felt like it was mocking me. She spent most of that first day wandering the ship without me. Whenever someone asked who I was, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Oh, he's just following me." I watched from a distance as she flirted with a group of guys by the pool, laughing and touching their arms, assuring them it was all just harmless fun. I tried to join the conversation once, to be part of her world again. She just let out a loud, exaggerated sigh and muttered, "You're embarrassing me." Just loud enough for me and everyone else to hear. Dinner was no better. The clinking of silverware was louder than our conversation. She barely spoke a word to me, her attention completely captured by her phone. She'd smile and laugh at messages I couldn't see, making me feel like an outsider at my own table. She ordered the most expensive cocktails on the menu, one after another, and just scrolled through her notifications while I sat there in silence. When I finally asked if she wanted to take a walk on the deck with me after dinner, she shot me a cold look. "Stop being so clingy," she snapped. Later that evening she disappeared again, leaving me alone at a crowded bar. I felt a knot of dread in my stomach as I started to wander the ship, searching for her. I walked past the casino, the theater, the late-night buffet, my anxiety growing with every step. I eventually found her by the main pool, surrounded by the same men from earlier. This time it was different. One of them had his hand resting on her waist, and she wasn't pushing him away. She was leaning into it, and then I heard her. Her voice carried across the quiet deck. "I really wish I had come on this cruise single," she was telling them, her voice full of fake regret. "Being married just makes everything so complicated." Then came the words that broke something inside me. "He's just so boring and predictable. He's someone I tolerate, not someone I love." I just stood there, hidden in the shadows, listening as she shattered our vows like they were cheap glass. She didn't even notice I was there until I stepped out of the darkness and into the dim light by the pool. Her eyes met mine and she rolled them. "Why are you hovering?" she asked, annoyed. I didn't say a word. I just turned and walked away before she could finish her sentence. I went back to our cabin and sat on the edge of the bed. The room felt cold and empty. And in that moment I realized something profound. I wasn't heartbroken. I wasn't even angry. I was just done. I spent the rest of the night wide awake, replaying every moment she had dismissed me, belittled me, or flat out ignored me. Every time she flirted with someone else right in front of me, every cruel comment, every lie. It was a highlight reel of disrespect, and I had finally seen the full picture. The next morning, she stumbled back into the cabin, smelling of a perfume that wasn't hers. "I was just out with some new friends," she announced, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "You should really find something to do instead of just waiting around for me." I just nodded quietly. I didn't give her the fight she was expecting, and my silence seemed to annoy her more than any argument would have. Complaining that I was ruining her fun, she left again. The moment she was gone, I went into action. I walked straight to the guest services desk. I calmly explained the situation and had them change the payment details on our cabin account. I removed my credit card, making her solely responsible for every single purchase she had made so far, all those expensive drinks, the pricey souvenirs, everything. Then I canceled every single shore excursion she had excitedly booked for herself. Back in the cabin, I printed out copies of our marriage license and the photos I'd discreetly taken of her with those other men. I was preparing for the final act. I spent the afternoon documenting everything I had seen and heard. When evening arrived, I knew where to find her. She was back in her usual spot by the pool, laughing loudly with the same group of men, holding a drink that someone else had obviously bought for her. I walked up to the group, calm and composed. I handed her a small, plain envelope. She looked at me confused as she tore it open. Inside were divorce papers. Her smile collapsed, the life drained from her face. "Is this some kind of joke?" she stammered. "No," I said, my voice steady. "It's not. I'm giving you exactly what you've been asking for all weekend. Your freedom." The men around her took a step back, their own smiles fading as they realized what was happening. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Can we please talk about this somewhere private?" she begged. I followed her to a quiet corner of the deck, the ocean breeze whipping around us. The second we were alone, her entire demeanor changed. The panic was gone, replaced by a forced, sweet tone. "I was only joking about wanting to be single," she said, trying to smile. "I've heard enough of your jokes to last a lifetime," I replied. She tried to blame the alcohol, but I cut her off. "You were cruel long before you had your first drink on this ship." She insisted the men meant nothing, that it was all for show. I looked her right in the eye and said, "I know. Because I meant nothing to you, either." True panic finally set in when I told her I had removed my card from the ship's account. The color drained from her face as the reality hit her. Every drink, every meal, every purchase she had made was now her bill to pay. "You have to fix it," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I can't afford all that." I just shook my head. "That's not my problem anymore," she started yelling, accusing me of humiliating her in front of her friends. I just looked at her calmly. "You've been humiliating me for months. Now you know how it feels." She tried to follow me as I walked away, but her pleas faded behind me. The next day was a stark contrast. She avoided the men she'd been so eager to impress, not that it mattered. They ignored her anyway. Word spreads fast on a cruise ship. People started whispering and pointing when she walked past. She spent most of the day locked in our cabin, crying so loudly that people in the hallway could hear her. I didn't go to her. I didn't comfort her. I wasn't being cruel. I was simply finished. I spent the rest of the day enjoying the cruise alone, finally feeling the weight of her disrespect lift from my shoulders. For the first time, I felt free. When the ship finally docked back at our home port, she made one last attempt. She cornered me near the gangway, her eyes red and swollen. "I still love you," she whispered. I just shook my head. "Love doesn't sound like wishing you were single while standing right next to your husband," she begged one last time. But it was too late. Our marriage hadn't ended on that ship. It had ended long before we ever boarded. I walked down the ramp and didn't look back. I felt the warm sun on my face, the fresh air on my skin, and the overwhelming peace of finally, truly letting go. For the first time in years, I felt like myself again. And I knew with absolute certainty that this ending wasn't a loss. It was the beginning I had needed for far too long.